All right, so we're gonna go into some vocabulary about different poles and different holds, and just climbing vocabulary in general. Yep. Yeah. Yep. But these ones are gonna be movements on the wall first. Yep. Yep. So the first one we're gonna be talking about is a side pole, which is like a lot of times when you go to pull up, I'm the hold or start on a climb. Sometimes it's up top, right? And then the side pole is gonna have you starting off at an angle. So I'm more horizontal than I am vertical. And so I want to be, my position is going to start like this. Yeah, you're going to be applying pressure side to side instead of like up and down. My goal is for me to pull myself and slightly traverse over to the next holds before I go up. So you're going to be working from left to right or right to left first, and which is really going to depend on your body position. You've got to pay attention to that, get your feet right, and then go. So I'm going to go over Gaston and compressions, the two different movements that require both your hands. So if I can get both you guys to do hand. All right. So this would be a compression move. I've got two holds like this, and I'm pushing inwards towards the center of my chest. This is holding me here so I can move and bump to the next move. Now, if I was doing Gaston, it would be, trying to think of this outward. I know. There we go. It'd be this. Yeah, it's like, oh. But this is a Gaston where you're pushing outwards and away from the center of your chest instead of. And this is the same thing. You're going to be moving this way, or you're going to be moving up. Most of the time, though, it's going to be a side move that you're going to go. And the last one?
Last one is the undercling. It is basically just a hold where I am grabbing under the grip, and I'm either holding myself forward or holding myself down, creating some kind of pressure against my feet so that I can stabilize myself and then reach for my next hold wherever it is.
All right, guys, so the next thing we're going to talk about is barn dooring. The barn door is something that you really don't want to do. You want to try to prevent it as much as possible. And it usually has everything to do with your body position and the way that you're holding the hold. So remember your concept. You want to keep your body weight centered, and you want to keep the tripod as much as possible. When you let go of one of your legs, refer back to the 6 bouldering basics we wish we would have known. Right. When you let go of one side, you're going to swing out. And when you swing out, you'll swing your body off the wall. That's the last thing you want. So you don't want to do a barn door, but usually it's an involuntary action based on a failure to have your body positioned in the correct space. And it literally looks like a barn door opening. Yeah. Yep.
The majority of the time, you can solve it with like flagging to counterbalance or something.
Yep. Most people end up barn dooring when they flag the wrong direction, or if their hand position and legs are out of position. Yeah. The big one is if your legs are too tight on a space when you're matched on a hold. That happens a lot.
Yep.
So mine is beta. So for those of you that have not climbed for a long time, the beta is like the intended way that you're supposed to do a problem. Some people will have their own individual beta. Some route setters will intend a beta for the intended route or way that you're supposed to climb it. But it just depends on you, because some people have tall people betas, some people have short people betas. Nobody climbs the same. So a lot of times it's just the route setter's beta, and then however you can do the climb within reason.
And I have
Bouldering.
bouldering. Bouldering is literally what we're doing here. We're climbing a wall with no protection other than the mats. Like, we're not tied off or anything. There's 2 different types of bouldering, or 2 different types of boulders. There's a low ball, which is anything up to 20 feet, I think. And then there's a high ball, anything over 20 feet. I'm sure there's a top limit where it becomes free soloing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think basically anything above 30 to 35 feet is like, mats aren't going to save you.
It's just bounce.
It's just bouncing. Yeah. Yeah. Ben says that he doesn't have a fear of falling; he has a fear of bouncing.
Yes. There's the fall.
It's
There's
bounce,
the bounce,
pain, then death.
the pain, and then the slow
And then
down.
the second bounce. All right. So the next one's going to be chimneys. Chimneys are going to have basically 2 walls that you're going to use simultaneously as you send it up. So it can be a combination of Gaston.
You find these mostly outside, by the way.
Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of these in gyms. I don't think we've seen one in any of the gyms that we go to. You have movements on certain walls, between two walls specifically, that you can have like a chimney style, but it's going to use a combination of either compression or Gastons. and you're going to be pressing in one position or both positions in order to move your feet, and then pressing with your feet to move your hands as you go up through Crag. So
There's actually a term for how you climb in a chimney. I just can't remember what it's called.
we
Because
should
you
look
see it
up
in
a lot.
like parkour all the time.
Yeah.
Where they're like ninja.
Yeah.
Can't
It
think of what it's
really all
called.
comes down to compression, evenly spread out, and
Oh, the alternating.
yep, alternating compression. Yep,
Okay.
and working your body movement all the way up the wall. Yeah.
So mine's dynamic and static movement, the differences in what they are. So dynamic movement on a wall is anything that has like fluidity and momentum. So when you see us climbing, and specifically me, I have a lot of dynamic movement in my style. Harry's a lot more static. But basically anytime that it looks like I'm jumping for a hold, or it looks like I'm swinging before I start a hold, that's dynamic movement. Static movement's a lot of lock-offs. You can still have very extended elbows and stuff like that when you make static movements, but it's very slow and controlled movement. Some would argue that it's the better kind of climbing because you're a lot more focused and you're a lot more like dialed in. But there are some things that you just can't do statically, and you have to learn how to do both.
And I have Crag. Crag, pretty easy, pretty simple. It's just the spot to go outdoor climbing. It's heading over to the Crag and climbing good boys. Yeah.
You want to go out to the Crag this weekend?
Yeah.
Using the vocabulary in the sentence.
Yeah.
All right, so the next one we're going to talk about is flash. Flashing climb is literally just doing it in one go and going all the way to the top. You don't have any kind of inconvenience. You're able to, I mean, even if there are challenges, you're still able to do it in one go, one attempt, and that's it.
I will say with the flash,
There's like something like kind of like rules to a flash. You can touch any holds that are at ground level, so you can feel what the holds feel like, etc., and that still counts as a flash. You haven't pulled on yet because your feet haven't left the ground. And then alternatively, you can't come back after doing it 8 times one session and then come back the first time that day at a new session and say that you flashed it. Right, because it's not the same thing. Got to be the first time hit the wall. All right, so mine's Mantle, which is another climbing movement. Mantling is a lot of times what you do outdoors to be able to top out. It consists of, but if you're doing it indoors, you have a hold that's like this. Sometimes you're holding like this, and you have to put your palm down and push up to be able to get up on something. Outdoors, you have to literally mantle over the top out of the climb, which is usually consists of you either pulling yourself up and going like this with a leg up, or having a heel hook up and kind of like rolling your body over to get the top out.
I have jam. It is literally just jamming into a hold, so I can jam my hands in and can push them out, or Gaston out, or I can jam in and press it.
This is your hold.
I'm gonna jam in and grab my hold.
There you go. All right, so next thing we're going to talk about is being pumped. Pumped is literally exactly what it sounds like. It's having your forearms, your calves, your glutes extremely overworked and
Full of blood.
Full of blood. That's exactly right. And like it's eventually you're going to lose your strength, Harry, because there is so much blood and lack of oxygen. Lactic acid is setting in, and you're going to start to get fatigue. So when you find yourself in a position where you're getting really pumped, find time to find rest or fall off the wall.
Yeah. In bouldering, most time you're not gonna find a fun rest. You're just trying to finish. But if you're on a multi-pitch route or if you're on a long pitch, you're gonna find a go to rest area and stop. So mine's grades. So I'm not gonna go into like the large amount of different grades that there are for different kinds of climbing, because sport climbing has different grade. Bouldering has a different kind of grade, and then each one of those have different grades in different areas of the world. So I'm going to go by V grades. It's the one that we use the most. If you've been following our channel enough, you realize that we do mostly bouldering. We are going to try to branch out into some rope climbing here soon, but most of the time we do bouldering. So the V grades, they start off, and at least in the States, they start off at V0 being the easiest climb. Sometimes you'll find a VB, which stands for being beginner. But in most gyms, you're going to find V0 as the very bottom. And then the climbs get exponentially harder with every level that you get. So you have V1, V2, V3, V4, blah, blah, I would say all of us are somewhere between V3 and V5 climbers. I know that you would probably be projecting most V5. Ben also roughly V4, V5, and I'm projecting V4, and I'm able to do not always flash, but do most V3s. So that's what the grading system is. If you want to look up other kinds of grades, you can find there's like the French grading. There's also when it comes to sport climbing, you have the 5 grade, which is like 5 dot, and then whatever it is, and the lower number on that after the dot indicates the ease of the climb. The higher the number after the dot, the more difficult the climb.
So I have problem, I have block, and I have route.
All the same.
Basically the same thing. So my route that I'm climbing, my problem that I'm working, my block that I'm climbing, right? I guess a route doesn't have to be a problem, but a problem could be a route also.
Because there could be a specific problem.
The specific problem, the specific hole, the specific grip that I'm trying to get to would be a problem that I'm trying to work.
Yeah. And then to clarify too, in the gym, most routes, blocks are going to be color coded. So when you look behind us, when you start off on a yellow climb, you're only going to climb yellows. Sometimes, Harry had pointed this out before, we hadn't got to it as far as vocabulary yet, but we're going to talk about arêtes. Arêtes are any 90-degree corner of a wall. And in most cases, you can use them, but Harry did point out, in some gyms, you'll find there's a little sticker that's right next to the start of the climb. You can notate the starts of all climbs in most gyms by tape. There's a little sticker that says arête off, which means that you can't use it. So if you're trying to figure out what arête means, like I said, it's just that 90-degree corner on any kind of wall.
Follow the chalk.
Yeah, because if the corner of the wall is chalked to shit, it's on.
It's on. All right, so the next one is going to be smearing. Smears are usually when you use your feet up against the wall in order to hold your body position so that you can make the next hole. It also usually comes into effect when you're flagging. Sometimes you'll be smearing on the wall as well. So up against the wall, I'm basically just slamming my toes as much, not slamming, but
as much
pressing,
surface.
Yep, pressing like the ball of my foot. Almost the entire top half of my foot is going to be pushed into the wall as much as possible to maintain my handholds or my other foothold. Again, based on body position, smearing is very important. It comes into a lot of climbs, all the way from V0 all the way to V10.
So I'm going to talk about rope climbing in general. Like I said, we haven't done any rope climbing on the channel, coming soon, hopefully. But rope climbing, starting off from the easiest to the hardest, or I guess the most safe to least safe, you have auto belay and top rope, which are basically the same thing as far as where the rope is located. Basically, there's a spindle at the very top. With auto belay, you don't have to have somebody belaying you. Automatically, it says, like, obviously it says auto. You clip in, and it goes up, and then it has like a pressure gauge as you're coming down that can sense your weight, and it slows you down. With top rope, it's the same placement of the rope. It goes straight up into a spindle and comes down, but then you have a belayer, someone who is keeping tension on your rope, and then also lowers you down. The next one, you have lead climbing, which is different in the sense that your belayer and you start off right next to each other with the rope between you. And then the climber goes up and hooks into the wall. That is your first safety point. Then they climb up again, and you'll see the bolts in the wall with carabiners on it. Carabiners are the little hooks with the latch door. And you're using the rope to clip in each one of those clips, and that becomes your safety each time instead of having a rope that goes up to the top. Last but not least is trad climbing. It is the most dangerous kind of climbing, reserved for the most practiced climber, because you're putting your own safety into the wall, known as cams. They're these devices that you can stick into the wall or into pockets or into cracks that activate. They close like this when you press a button, and then when you release that button, they open back up, and then you can pull on them and have weight. But the problem is, if you watch Instagram, you watch anything out, you'll see what they're called whippers, which is when somebody falls and the safety fails, and they at least lose one cam, and that's how injuries can happen. You could lose all of your cams and all of your safety on the way down, and you could hit bottom, which is really scary. But yeah, so it is by far the least safe, with the exception of like free soloing, right? Because you have no safety, but at least there's safety with trad. And yours?
I have volume. So basically a volume that's anything attached to the wall that is not a hole. There is a
Extra
volume-
extensions.
There is a volume.
Viewing box.
It looks like a piece of plywood that has holes on it, but it's a volume.
Cool beans.